Hi, this is David McCann for WebTNG. This video is all about adding schema markup to your custom post types. I've made several videos showing how to create custom post types in the WordPress admin, and a large number of videos showing how to show your custom post types on the front end using various page builders. In this video, we're looking at a missing piece of the puzzle, which is adding schema markup to your custom post types. Schema markup is HTML or JavaScript that is added to the source code of your pages, and it allows Google, Bing, Yandex, and other search engines to better understand and index your content. First, I'll have a brief discussion of what schema markup is and why it's important, and then we'll look at 4 plugin options. The first 2 plugin options are SEOPress Pro and Rank Math Pro. These are 2 SEO powerhouses that also provide the ability to add schema markup. Then we'll look at 2 plugins that are solely dedicated to providing schema markup options. We'll look at Schema Pro and we'll look at uSchema. At the end, we'll have some discussion and conclusion. It's my hope that by that time you'll have a good sense of which of these 4 options would best fit your use cases. So first, let's answer the question, what is the schema we're talking about and why is it important? To demonstrate, I have a test site called Book Review Site with a custom post type called Books. I use CPT UI to create the custom post type and the Advanced Custom Fields plugin to add a bunch of custom fields. So here we have a book review. We have a custom taxonomy called genres. We have the featured image. We have an explicit excerpt. We have a book description, book title, author's name, the ISBN, a link to the author's website, the author's photo, and the reviewer rating. If we look on the front end, here's our book review. Okay, looks pretty nice. We can see the rating, we can see the genre, we can see the book review. So we want people to come to our site and read our book reviews, and an important way of getting traffic is through having search engines crawl the site, index it, and then suggest the reviews to users who are looking for reviews of this book. And so the challenge is that Google, number one, it doesn't know that this page is a book review. Number 2, when we look at the title, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms by George R.R. Martin, how does it know that George R.R. Martin is the author of the book and not the person doing the book review? And the solution that Google, Bing, Yandex, other search engines came up with was to create something called schema or structured data. And this is information about the page that you put inside the source code of the page to tell the search engine what the content is about. Right now, I'm going to grab the URL to this page, and Google provides a testing tool so you can see what Google understands of the page. So I'm going to put the URL in, and we're going to go test and see what does Google understand about this page. So what kind of content does Google think this is? We see that it was crawled successfully, but there were no items detected. There was nothing special about this page. It doesn't know what kind of content it is. So what's the solution? How is Google going to find out what kind of content it is? Well, a sad fact is they want you to tell them. And that's where the schema comes in. Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and Yandex created this schema.org website. It's a collaboration, and currently there are 792 types of schema. Basically, they're trying to kind of map out the different types of content that you would find on the web. And if we look here are some common types: book, movie, music, recording, recipe, TV series, event, organization, person, place, local business, restaurant, review, and so on. So what does a schema look like? This is the book schema. And you see that it has some properties that are of book, type book. But then there's a generic type called Creative Works, and a book then also includes some properties from the Creative Work type. And if we go down here, there's another type called Thing, another generic type. Okay. And one more thing here is that these schema types are composites. They're made up of other schema types. For example, here's author of creative work, and it's of type organization or person. And if you look, these are the properties and nested types from the person schema type. Okay, so the bad news is it's kind of complex. The good news is that not all of these properties are required. And we have some software, we have some plugins to help us generate this so we don't have to start from scratch and program it ourselves. All right, now one more thing before we leave kind of general discussions is if we go and look in search results, we see that some search results, for example, reviews of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, is showing rating reviews, is showing the stars here. So these are rich snippets that come in the search results. And then there are some enhanced schema types like recipe that include things like a card like this. Site builders and content authors, they want this kind of rich schema and enhanced schema because it's thought that people are more likely to click through if they see like the image or the rating or something. It'll attract their attention and they're more likely to click through to read it. This is kind of the holy grail of using these types of schemas, is to get it to show up in the search results with the extra bling. Now there's only like about a dozen, 15 or so types of schema that have this enhanced or rich features. It's not all of them. If we go back to our book review website and we remember that Google didn't pick up anything about our book. Okay, they didn't know it was a review, they didn't know it had a rating or anything, so let's see if we can fix that now. And I'm going to go to plugins. And I'm going to start with SEOPress, and we'll see how that one handles the schema. When you install and activate SEOPress, you get this new menu area here, SEO menu, and there's a menu item for schema. Let's click on that, and let's create schema. So first thing we have to do is give it a name. We'll call it Book Review Schema. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of a lag here. And you select your data type, I think this is your schema type, and you select what it's going to be associated with. These are just like the rules in your theme builder to pick where you want the schema to show. And so we want it to show for books. And these are the schema types that SEOPress Pro offers out of the box. There's article, web pages, local business, FAQ, course, recipe, job, video, event, product, service, software application review, and custom. Remember I said there were like 12 or 15 that used those kind of rich snippets. So these are probably the most common types that people use. Now, we notice there isn't one for books, but there is one for review, and we're doing a book review. So let's try that out. And so it says map all schema properties to a value. Review item name, and I think this is going to be the custom field. Book title. Here we go. Review item type. And these are, dynamic tags or custom fields. None of those work. So we're going to do manual text and enter book. Review item image. We'll say it's the featured image. Your rating. So we have a custom field for that. And it's called reviewer rating. Okay, and then max best rating says you can leave that blank if it's a 1 to 5 scale, which is what we have. And then review body. Okay, so that'll be the excerpt. And here. All right, so let's publish that. This wasn't too hard to do. You map the required fields to fields in the content. Okay, so now let's go back to our book review. I'm going to grab the URL. We'll go to the Google tester and we'll see if anything has changed. If Google now understands what the content is any better. Okay, so one valid item detected. Before there were none. And it's a review snippet. So that's looking good. And it's saying that it's Night of the Seven Kingdoms. To type reviewed, item type is book. Night of the Seven Kingdoms. The review date, the author is me. The review body, the excerpt, the image, the featured image, and the rating. Okay, so this is pretty good. It was pretty easy, but you'll notice that there's not really a lot of information about the book. Anyway, this is kind of what you get the easy route using SEOPress. Let's go back to our schema. I just want to show you one more thing here with SEOPress. That is, when you add schema, when you're choosing your schema type, there's an option for custom. And when you do custom, you manually enter the schema, and you can do it manually for each post, or you can set up a template. And what this does is we would paste in our schema markup in here. And there's a website called Steal Our JSON LD. Basically, what they're doing is they've created some schema here, and you can grab their markup. So see, this is what they have for review, which is similar to what we did with SEOPress. But here, for example, is a book one. If you have the schema already from someplace else, you can grab it here, you can copy it, and you can paste it in here. Okay, and now we don't want it to be hard-coded. And what SEOPress does for you is that SEOPress has a long list of dynamic variables that you can use in here. So for example, if we look through here, we have your custom field name. And if we go back here and paste that in here where it says author, if we're doing a book and not the review here, CF your custom field name, and we put in book author. So you get the idea here. You would go in and replace each of these that you want to be a variable with the appropriate dynamic variable here. Okay, so that's a lot of work, but there is a way to customize, like if we weren't happy with the review schema option, there is a way to customize it and create your own using SEOPress Pro, kind of more for a power user or geeky programmer type. Okay, but there is that option. All right, so that is what we have with SEOPress. Now let's go back to plugins and let's disable SEOPress, deactivate, and let's turn on Rank Math and Rank Math Pro. And Rank Math Pro adds a Schema Templates menu item. And we'll click Add New. And these are the types that Rank Math has predefined. There's article, book, carousel, course, data set, event, FAQ, fact check, how-to, job posting, movie, music, person, product, recipe, restaurant, service, software, and video. So they have more. Here there isn't review, interestingly enough, but I want to show you what they do have. I'm just going to click on course for a second, and here are fields for courses, but every one of their schema types also has a section for review. So that's kind of interesting. Any of them can be a review there. So that's a little different. So let's add the book schema. And just like with SEOPress, Rank Math has a number of kind of magic tags or dynamic variables. And so we want the one first for custom field. So let's copy that tag, put it in here, and this is the book title. And it says here, the reviewer rating must be displayed on the page to comply with Google's schema guidelines. So the Rank Math schema is all about reviews, really kind of focused on that. These predefined ones all have this review section. You have the option to have it output it below, above, both, or use a shortcode. I'm outputting the stars, the reviewer rating, using an element or template, so I shouldn't need to use this. Then URL, that would be the permalink, author's name. Our rating, you have the minimum and the maximum, so you have your range defined. But here's a weird thing. This is like a number incrementer. So you would have to hard code it if you use this. So there's a way around that, which I'll show you just a minute. The other thing is that if you click here, you add a property group for editions. And here you can add more information about the book, the edition, the publication date, the ISBN, the format, which would be nice to have in there. But I've gone through and tested this, and this edition thing, if we just click this, fill this out, the schema checker doesn't pick up anything from the page at all. So I'm going to remove this. Yes, delete. So that's kind of a weird thing. Okay, so a cool feature of the Rank Math schema option is you have this advanced editor, and that lets you go in and customize this deeply and any way you want. So that's a nice thing. And you could create your own schema, using some of the examples from the schema.org page. Okay, here's what we need to delete here. Okay. All right, and now the reviewer rating is just a regular field where we can enter our custom field magic tag. Okay, so that's good. See, we have an extra character there. So now let's save this. And there are two more tabs here. Code validation. You can look over your code. I don't really see any checker right here, but you can copy it, and on the rich snippets, the rich results test page, there is an option to paste in the code. Okay, but then the display conditions, just like with SEOPress, you need to state where you want the schema to show up. We want it on books, so we'll save that. Okay, and now let's go and view this. Grab the URL to paste in here, and retest. Okay, and it did detect our review snippet, and here's the title. It just has the review information and the book title. There's no book author information or anything like that. So it's pretty minimal, but that's kind of what you get with Rank Math Pro. So let's go back to the website now, to our test site, and let's go to plugins. And now let's try Schema Pro. Let's deactivate Rank Math, and we'll activate Schema Pro. And we have our Schema Pro menu under Settings. Okay, so let's add new. And these are the predefined types for Schema Pro. You have article, you have book, course, event, job posting, local business, review, person, product, recipe, service, software application, video object, FAQ, how to, custom markup, and image license. So if we look at the book, for instance, I'm not going to change that right now because I wanted to show you this is what it looks like here. And this is actually real book schema for a book, but SEOPress doesn't have the option to customize this. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. So we need to go back and let's trash this and add new. We're going to need to use the review snippet, the review schema type, and we want to enable it on book singles. All right, and now here is what we have. So we have review item type is book. And when we choose that, then we get more fields here. And we can choose the fields from the drop down. So the book name is going to be a custom field, book title. So that's picking up the ACF fields. The book description will be the book description field. Book ISBN will be the book ISBN field. So you see this is faster and easier. Here the book author name is author's name. The same as this is the kind of authoritative link to information about the book, whatever, and that's going to be the author's website. The review body, that's going to be the excerpt. The review date will be the published date. The review rating is reviewer rating. The reviewer type is person and its author name, and the publisher name, that is going to be the site title. Okay, so there's no option like with Rank Math to go in to an advanced editor and configure this further, but this was pretty easy to set up. Now let's go and let's do a refresh and see what we get with the Schema Pro version. Okay, so here's our review snippet, and we see that it has type reviewed, item review book, and it's got the book author information, it's got the description, it's got the review URL, it's got the rating information in the excerpt, and the author of review information here. So this is a pretty nice schema snippet here, and that's what you get when you use the review snippet with Schema Pro. Let's go back to Schema Pro. One more thing I want to show you here, they do have a custom markup option, and when you use that, what you get is you can add fixed text instead, and then this gives you an editor window where, remember, like with SEOPress, you can paste your schema kind of template in here, but I couldn't find in the Schema Pro documentation, so I was a little surprised I didn't find any dynamic tag options. And so this seems a little limited because, without the dynamic variables, you can't really create a template that can be applied. So I think they need some more work on the custom markup option. They need to add the dynamic variables or create a knowledge base article for those if they exist in code. But anyway, I wanted to show you that there was something here. All right, and now the last one that we want to look at is let's go and deactivate Schema Pro, and we'll activate the uSchema plugin. So uSchema is just for schema. If we look at the types of schema that it has built in, there's article, book, product, course, event, local business, person, service, software application, FAQ page, how-to, episode, movie, place, and job posting. So there's overlap with the others, but there are also some things that are different. If we just look at the book schema, this is actually real kind of book schema. It's not review schema. like Rank Math Pro, but I've tried this. I've actually worked with uSchema a lot more than the others. So what we have here is kind of book schema, but there's no way here to add fields. However, if you go to advanced, this other option, then you go into an editor where you can customize it how you want. So I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to trash this. Let's go in and do add new. And what I'm going to do is build this from scratch because, like I said, I had a hard time kind of adapting this one. It wouldn't show up. And the only way I got it to work was to build a review schema from scratch. So let's do that. When you do this, you have how many levels deep, the nesting. And you can bring in the fields from these built-in simple schemas. So I could bring in books, but they won't end up where I want them. So I'm just going to skip that. And I'm going to add the type here is going to be review, which is this top one. And then the next thing is going to be item reviewed. And I'm kind of basing this off the schema that was generated by Schema Pro. You have to come up with what you want here. And I'm not sure if sometimes maybe it wasn't showing because there was an error and had something missing, or why, but I'm going to base this off of the Schema Pro type schema. You can see what you type into the label shows up there. Okay, and this is schema type book. So this is the type, and then we have a field for name, and this is existing meta, so it pulls in the various fields. Book title. So this has a drop down. You don't have to remember the names. And then we'll add another one. And this is going to be author. And this is schema type person. So we're nesting in here. We need a child for person. And the child is, we have name. And this is an existing field, and this is author's name. Okay, and the person has another field that you're supposed to have with person is the same as field, which I think is supposed to be an authoritative link to information about them. So I'm going to do existing meta, and this will be author's website. That should be the author item. Let's collapse these. So we have item reviewed, and then we have, now let's see. I think these should be under item reviewed. Can we drag them under? Let's see if we can drag this under. Nope. Okay, so item reviewed, type book, so has child. Now let's see if we can drag this under where it says has child. Nope. Okay, so let's redo this. Okay, so I'm removing that one. Okay, this is going to take a while, so I'll pause the video and create the rest of the schema and show you what I've done. Okay, so this is what we end up with. We have the item reviewed, which has the child fields. There's the name, the author, which is a person, which has a name and a same as field, and then the ISBN. Okay, so that's the item reviewed. Then we have the description, the URL, okay, which is the post URL. We have the rating, which has a child field for the rating value, and that's, coming from a custom field. The review body, which is the excerpt. the author, which is a person, and this is the reviewer author, and the same as for that. And then the publisher, which is the website, the organization that published the review, and that has a name and same as. So the blog name and the blog URL. Okay, so that's what we have then for the schema, and that took a little while to enter all of that. And we want to include it on books, hit publish. Okay, and then there's one more thing we need to do, and that is that we have to come here, and even though we said we wanted it on all books when we defined it here, we have to go to post type in the settings and choose your post type books and select that we want the book review option. So I save that, and then let's see, we'll go grab our URL from the page and let's run this again. Okay, and it found review snippet, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and there's the schema. So that's how you do it with the uSchema plugin. I had to do it manually to get it to work. Like I said, I tried adding the review fields to the book schema and had trouble getting that to show up. Okay, so we've looked at our 4 different options for adding schema to custom post types. Now let's have some discussion and conclusions. In general, we saw that search engines may not on their own detect the type of content that you have created in your custom post types. We need to tell them what the content is about. There is a consortium that created a type of markup structured language, and the authoritative source for information about that is the schema.org website. The schema itself can be a bit complex. The schema is a composite of different types, and each type has its own properties as well as other nested schema types. We saw that the book review schema, as an example, can be either based on a book type with review information added to it, or the other way around, a review type with book information. Fortunately, we have plugins to help us create schema. Each plugin worked a bit differently. With SEOPress, you could pick fields from a drop-down, but if you needed to customize the schema, then you would need to create the JSON and add in dynamic variables. Rank Math had a pretty good editor, but it was a bit odd that all of the predefined schema types focused on adding a review section. I like the editor and the way it nested the types and properties. You were not able to pick fields from a drop-down, which was not as convenient, but you could customize the schema as you needed to. The Schema Pro plugin provided a review schema as well as a review item type. It allowed you to pick fields from a drop-down and did a good job showing ACF fields and not showing settings fields from themes or other plugins. It had a custom schema option, but since there are no dynamic variables, you wouldn't be able to create a template to apply dynamically to a custom post type. uSchema was for me the hardest to use. I spent a few hours before recording the video looking at the help docs and videos on their YouTube channel. I also tried starting with their book schema option and adding the review fields, but I was not able to get the schema picked up by the Google test tool. That could totally have been user error, but even after availing myself of the online support resources, the only successful method for me was to create it from scratch. It does have an editor that allows you to go into advanced mode, which is nice, but it was the slowest solution. My conclusion is that if your SEO plugin has a schema option that actually fits your needs and you're happy with it, then that is the easiest solution. The Schema Pro plugin was the easiest to use, and out of the box it gave the richest results about the book review of any of the predefined options. It would be my first choice if it has the schema you need. Too bad it doesn't have an advanced editor. Rank Math would be my second choice, SEOPress Pro my third choice, and uSchema was doable, but a pain. So that is my walkthrough and review of 4 options for adding schema markup for your custom post types. There's a text summary on the WebTNG website along with other walkthroughs and reviews. I hope you found the video helpful. Thank you for watching.